The Baltimore Orioles have the best record in the American League, and they stand alone atop the AL East standings. No one expected them to be this good this quickly, but they are, and they have arrived, and they're making a case to be the team that nobody wants to face in the playoffs. So I'll break that down and much more on this episode of Diamond Digest. Welcome in, everybody. I'm your host, Peter Vrionis. This is Diamond Digest, and today I'm going to be discussing the rise of the Baltimore Orioles. Now, I'm a Blue Jay fan myself, but I do consider myself an MLB fan as well, and I could stay fairly neutral when it comes to talking about other teams, and I could appreciate star players that do suit up for different franchises. But this Baltimore team, man, I mean, just a couple of years ago, they won 50 games. They weren't expected to be this good this quickly. Now they've rebuilt their system through the draft. They've had a lot of number one draft picks in recent years, but man, they're just such a good team right now, and they're making a case to be probably the best team in the American League. At least the way that they've been playing lately, I don't think there's anyone that can compete with them. And we'll look at the standings right here in the AL East. They're 3 games ahead of the Tampa Bay Rays, which is, it's not anything to go crazy about either. However, considering that the Rays started off this season historically well, they were kind of cakewalking their way to the AL East title. Now they're on the outside looking in because Baltimore has been playing phenomenal baseball coming out of the All-Star break. They've just found ways to win, and they're not doing it in flashy style. They're grinding out a lot of wins. They are hitting their fair share of home runs. They're in kind of in the middle of the pack when it comes to that, but they're getting contributions up and down that lineup, and their pitching has really held their own. That was the big question mark heading into the season for the Baltimore Orioles was, will their starting rotation be able to hold up? And we saw the improvements last year that their lineup made. We saw the impact that Adley Rutschman had on this team, just calling games and being the leader that he is behind the dish. But they weren't ready to take that next leap. And before the season started on Jay's Digest, if you guys are familiar with that channel, I predicted the Baltimore Orioles to win around 83 to 85 games, and I thought that was really reasonable. They're going to be slightly above 500. They're going to be a very tough team to play against, but their lack of experience is going to cost them a playoff spot and a lot of close games, and that just has not been the case thus far. Now, as it stands right now, the Baltimore Orioles are tied for the third best odds to win the American League itself at a plus 400. So that could be a pretty good bet for any of you gamblers out there. And if we look at just the World Series odds in general, the Baltimore Orioles could be a pretty good play at plus 800. You know, as someone that does like to place a wager every now and then, I'm looking at that plus 280 for the Braves. And I don't know, man. They look like one of the best teams that I've ever seen in my lifetime. So I might even go for that. I know I'm trying to talk up the Orioles right now, but let's all agree that the Atlanta Braves are the class of Major League Baseball right now, and you can't really go wrong with a bet that'll triple your money, right? All the talk about the Orioles, though, is about their 2 young stars, Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman, and those 2 guys are propelling this team, but they are getting contributions from Ryan O'Hearn, who has about an 860 OPS in 200 at-bats this season. This is a guy who is a lifetime sub-250 hitter, and you know, he's really having a revelation of a season. Austin Hayes is having a good year in the middle of that lineup as well. Ryan Mountcastle is a Jays fan, of course. He's got an OPS north of 1,000 against them. So I know the damage that he's capable of doing, and they're just getting contributions. Jorge Mateo was very hot for the first couple of months of the season, and obviously he tailed off. He kind of became the player that we all thought he would be. He struggles at the plate, but he is tremendous defensively, and that can't be overstated enough. I mean, he's so solid in the middle of the diamond there, and he keeps them in games with his defense alone and his base running as well. Obviously, you wish you did get some more with the bat, and he showed some flashes early on in the season, but that's when not all of their guys were hitting, and Jorge Mateo was finding ways to be dominant with the bat and contribute in that sense. Now, someone who has been contributing since those rough 2 months of the season for the Orioles has been Gunnar Henderson. Now look at these numbers. In June, he had a 167 OPS plus. The home run power is really starting to creep in now, and he only had 5 home runs in the first 2 months and a half, and now he's got 19 on the season, if my math doesn't fail me there. But a 167 OPS plus in the month of June, an OPS nearing 1,000. July was okay, 120 OPS plus, 245 average, but that's slugging. The power is really coming into its own for Gunnar Henderson, and he's just a force in the middle of that lineup. Such a fun player to watch. Gunnar Henderson is a true 5-tool player. The guy hits for power. The guy runs like the wind. He's got a good glove at third base, a cannon of an arm, and he's just got a great hit tool all in general. He is someone that's going to be manning that number 2 spot, or maybe even the leadoff spot for the Baltimore Orioles for years to come. However, the main guy that I want to talk about in this video has got to be Adley Rutschman. Now, if you look at his baseball savant, obviously the strikeout percentage and the walk rate are 2 things that really stand out for him. He gives you a great at-bat. He doesn't swing at a lot of borderline pitches. He will keep himself in at-bats. He works the counts, and he's now actually hitting leadoff for this Baltimore team, which is super unusual when it comes to catchers and offense. But his defense is what really separates him from other catchers. And if you look at the pop time and the framing, yeah, they're in the upper quarter of the league. He's phenomenal in that sense, but it's not like 100 percentile. He's not better than everyone. But if you just watch him, and the eye test does not, it doesn't elude you when it comes to Adley Rutschman. He's great at calling the game. He leads the pitching staff like he's a 10-year veteran. And a lot of those guys that aren't great pitchers on this Baltimore Orioles team, they just find something with Adley Rutschman behind the plate. So it's very impressive seeing what he can do at only 25 years of age. He manages that pitching staff so well. But the bullpen for me is the calling card for the Baltimore Orioles. I believe that they have the most dynamic bullpen in the sport. They're led by Felix Bautista, who has a legitimate chance to win the Cy Young Award this year. And Gunnar Cano is having a phenomenal season in the setup role as the 8th inning guy right before Felix Bautista. He's tailed off a little bit. He started off historically well when the season got off and running. He's no longer that same pitcher, but he's keeping them in ball games, and he's not blowing leads. He doesn't walk anybody, which is very impressive. And he's just been phenomenal in that 8th inning role. And they have a lot of fringe guys that are stepping up as well. Danny Coulombe, Brandon Baker, or Jordan Baker, whatever his name is, the former Blue Jay. Baker has been phenomenal in that role as well. So they're just getting contributions. They just acquired Jack Flaherty at the deadline from the St. Louis Cardinals. So this is a team that you definitely got to look out for if you are in the American League, and if you are the Atlanta Braves and the LA Dodgers, who seem to be the cream of the crop in the National League. But that'll wrap up this video of Diamond Digest. Thank you so much for making it this far, and I will see you soon.